Thank you. Thank you very, very much for that warm introduction, President. Thank you to the President, to the Chairman of the Board of Governors, to the faculty deans, the academic staff, all parents here present, and of course, to you, the class of 2013. Without you, of course, we wouldn't be having this convocation. When I was asked to speak to you, I asked myself, what can I say to these young minds? And I thought perhaps I should just really follow my own journey from when I was where you are. And 33 years ago, yes, I was an 18-year-old first-year law student. I came, as the President has said, from a rural African background. I had nobody really as a role model because nobody in my family had ever been to college. So I had absolutely no clue what going to university entailed. And I chose law not because I knew what it could do, what it meant in practice. I chose law because by a process of elimination, I thought that was something I could do. I couldn't become a doctor because my science grades sucked. I couldn't be an engineer or any of those things that young people think they can do very well, even if they don't have the aptitude. So through a process of elimination and the grades that I had, I thought, oh, law. All right, that sounds interesting. And that's when I started my journey through law school in 1976. I had absolutely no clue what it meant to be a lawyer. I didn't know any lawyer, male or female, that I could ask what this would take me to. I muddled through law school, doing more partying than studying. I did graduate, and I started working as a prosecutor in the government office. I knew the minute I was in a courtroom that, yes, this was it. I had chosen the right profession for myself. It's a journey that I went through by mistake, but which has led me to where I am, and which has meant that I can use law as a tool. It is a tool that I didn't realize could be used in the many ways that it can be. And it was through my practice as a lawyer, particularly as a prosecutor, that I realized that I could actually make a difference through the use of the law. It was quite interesting that the human rights aspect of my legal practice came about when I still worked for the government. And I'll give you just a major case that sort of changed the path that I was to take in the practice of law. As a prosecutor in 1985, I dealt with a case of political violence involving 4 persons from the ruling party, 3 men and a woman, who had assaulted a woman who came from the opposition. Who had come from the opposition party at the time. It was led by a bishop. This woman had been beaten for her political beliefs. After being beaten, she was asked to take off her clothes, roll them into a bundle, carry them on her head, and have her 2 teenage sons walk behind her in the township where they lived. And it just happened to be raining on the day. And it's possibly one of the worst humiliations for an African woman to be walking naked in front of her two teenage sons. And when I read the docket, I was absolutely certain that there was nothing I wouldn't do to make sure that these four got their just desserts. And I set about prosecuting them, and when I was ready with the prosecution, I was asked if I could postpone the matter by the person who was the Attorney General at the time. And when I asked why, he said, oh, because there are representations that had to be made on the case. And I said, to whom and by whom? And he just directed that I send the docket to his office. I refused. I said if there were any representations that had to be made, they had to be made to me because I was seized with the case and I was not going to allow any postponement. I stood my ground and prosecuted the four, and I felt a sense of victory when all four of them were convicted and they received sentences of between 8 months and 24 months. A week later, I discovered that they had only served one night in prison. They had received a presidential pardon from the then ceremonial president a day after their conviction. You can't imagine how I felt. You can't imagine how I viewed the justice system. You can't imagine how, for some reason, I felt I was actually to blame for this grave miscarriage of justice. I found out about their release because the woman who had been the victim came to my office to say, what happened? The woman is not in jail. She came a day after, and when I checked with the prison authorities, that's when I was told that they had received a presidential pardon. I went to my boss to ask if really there was nothing we could do, and yes, legally there was very little we could do, because the president has the absolute power to grant pardons. And it was quite clear that this was a pardon based purely on the political affiliation of the perpetrators of the political violence. It was that case that made me determined to ensure that people like that woman will receive justice, even if it is not the kind of justice where someone is in jail. So I set about ensuring that she gets somebody who would pursue the case for her civilly and that she gets damages. She did get the damages at the end of the day, but from then onwards, I was absolutely determined to make sure that I was not going to be part of a system that had selective justice applied. That is how then I ended up with the tag of a human rights lawyer. I have, as the president has said, done a lot of the sort of politically regarded cases in Zimbabwe. But I'm telling you this story because I want each one of you, class of 2013, to ask yourselves, why have you chosen the cause that you have chosen? What do you want to do with it? Where is it going to take you? If your motivation is to make a difference, to whom do you want to make that difference? Is it to your community? Is it to your immediate family? Is it to the country? Is it to someone somewhere? Or is it because you believe that your engineering degree will give you very good remuneration and a very good standard of living? Or like me, you've just chosen a course that you think will take you through college because yes, after high school you've got to go to university. Whichever of these paths or whichever of these students you are, I want to challenge all of you to interrogate yourselves. You are, as young people, going to be faced with many challenges. You will, as young people, bear the brunt of climate change. You will have to deal with those issues. You will have to deal with the issues that are not of your own creation. And my challenge to you will be, why don't you interrogate yourself today so that you know which one of those 3 possible scenarios you are? If you do want to make that difference, think how you can use your degree to make that difference. If you do want to make a difference to a third party, it can be in your own communities. You do have homeless people in Canada. You do have orphans, just like we have problems in the developing world. You could also look beyond your own borders, and you can decide if, for instance, you're a journalism student, that you could adopt a colleague who's a journalism student in Sudan, in Somalia, in Zimbabwe, anywhere in the world, particularly in the developing world, and you can make a difference to that person's life. I say this coming from Zimbabwe because right now the University of Zimbabwe was reopened about 3 weeks ago. It had been closed for 18 months. There are no books at the University of Zimbabwe. The lecturers earn $100 per month, everybody, all the lecturers, whether you are the president or the lowest lecturer, you earn $100 a month. They do not have any computers. The libraries are shells of what used to be, and you could make a difference by, asking yourselves what difference you can make out there. University education is a tool. It is a tool that you have to choose to use in a manner that will make a difference not only to yourself, but to those around you. You may not have riches from that tool and the path that you choose, but I can tell you from where I stand, I have absolute satisfaction that although I got into this profession by mistake, it is a mistake that has given me enormous pleasure in that I know I have made a difference to a whole lot of other people who otherwise would never have had justice done for them. I am absolutely certain that when you do ask yourselves these questions that I'm asking you to ask yourselves, that you will come up with the right thing, that you will use the education that Carleton is going to give you to make a difference, and that you will be a product of this great university that the college or the university will continue saying, this is the kind of student that we can produce. Thank you very much.